Hello, everybody. Today we're going to get back into taking a look at a couple of new polls. We've got one for governor of Virginia as well as one for governor of Maryland. So let's not waste any time. Let's look at these first polls we've got for 2025. This first one is going to be Virginia, and it's going to be from Emerson. And I just put out my first prediction video the other day for this state, and it was a tilt for Spanberger. The headline here is Spanberger 42, Earl Sears 41. So far, this poll is lining up with my prediction, but it's super early. So let's get into this thing. First of all, we've still got primaries to get through. Those are coming up in June, so there's a lot of time left. But as of right now, it looks like Spanberger and Sears are going to be the clear frontrunners. So as we just saw, it's basically a dead heat. 42 for Spanberger, 41 for Sears, someone else say 4%, and we've got 13% that are undecided. Now, this was taken January 6th through the 8th, and the sample size was 1,000 registered voters. The margin of error is plus or minus 3%. So I don't think there's any super revealing information here. But let's see what the rest of the data shows. Well, we've got Sears leading with male voters 52 to 37 and white voters 50 to 35. Spanberger leads with women 47 to 31, and both older and young voters, those over 70 who break for Spanberger 46 to 43, and those under 30 who break for her 43 to 33. So some trade-offs there with the different demographics. How do voters feel about the economy? A majority, 51%, feel their economic situation is worse than it was 4 years ago, while 27% think it was better and 22 say it's no different. Among those who feel their economic situation is worse than 4 years ago, 56% think the state is headed in the right direction and 56% have a favorable view of the governor. Additionally, 66% of those who feel they are worse off than 4 years ago have an unfavorable view of President Biden, suggesting they may be blaming the president rather than Governor Youngkin for their current economic situation. And what about Governor Glenn Youngkin? He is term limited after just 4 years. His approval rating is 48%. That's not too bad, while 35% view him unfavorably. Spanberger is at 38% favorable, 21 unfavorable, 24 are neutral, 17% are not familiar. Sears has a 33% favorable, 22 unfavorable, 27 are neutral, and 18 are not familiar. So the favorable ratings of the two frontrunners are comparable. Although Sears is currently in elected statewide office, I would think her name recognition would be higher than that of Spanberger, who actually retired from Congress so she could focus on her campaign for governor. How about Trump and Biden's favorables? Well, Trump is at 47 favorable and 47 unfavorable. Biden, on the other hand, is a little bit worse. He's at 43 favorable, 50 unfavorable. 59% think the state is headed in the right direction. 41% think it's on the wrong track. Those numbers are actually pretty good. If Youngkin actually was running for re-election, those numbers seem like they would be good enough for a second term. The top issue in the state is going to be the economy at 38%. That massively dwarfs housing affordability at 14, and then healthcare at 10, and down from there. If you're wondering about safety, a plurality, 41% feel their community safety has remained unchanged over the past 4 years, while 38% think that it's decreased, and 21% reported improvement. And finally, they're talking about snow and climate change. It says, following a significant snowstorm that impacted parts of Virginia, 56% agree it's possible that the heavy snowstorms could be caused by climate change. 44% disagree. So make of what you will with that data, but that governor's race looks like it's going to be a great one. But usually the winner is the party opposite the one in the White House. This time it's going to be the Republicans. So technically the Democrats should be favored. That pattern goes back many decades, except for 2013, where the Democrats actually won with Obama in office. So down here you can click on full results and take a look at more of a breakdown. The party affiliation of this sample was 37% Democrat, 35% Republican, and 28% independent or other. So some good stuff in here. It's one of only 2 states, aside from New Jersey, that's going to have an election for governor this year. And maybe nothing changes, but maybe it changes a lot. We're going to find out what happens. Next, let's move on to Maryland. We've got a poll here from Gonzalez Research. And you might be thinking, what's going on with this state? They're not even having an election this year. You're right, the election is next year, and they have an incumbent Democrat, Wes Moore, running for re-election. But when you're in January, it's never too early to take a look at some highly speculative polling. So this poll used 811 registered voters. And if we go down here past the contents, you can get a little bit more background about this pollster. So the margin of error in this one is going to be 3.5 points. And they took this poll about 1 to 2 weeks ago. So first, let's see how Governor Wes Moore is doing. He's got a 61% approval rating, 28% disapprove, 11% have no opinion. So once you get into the 60s, that is a pretty stellar approval rating. Now, Moore is a Democrat. It's a very blue state. It's not as shocking as when Larry Hogan was governor. His approval rating was also very, very impressive. By party, we've got 79% of Dems approve of Moore, 53% of independents, and even 30 33% of Republicans. So Moore has got to be doing something right if he's getting a third of Republicans. They also qualify his approval rating by saying there's some softness of the intensity. Only 29% strongly approve of Moore. So maybe he's still having an extended honeymoon period and it could come down a little bit. But given it's at 61, it would have to come down a lot. Now, I think it would be very tough to take down Wes Moore next year. He seems popular. He seems likable. But former Governor Larry Hogan was tested as the main opposition to Moore. Hogan already served 2 terms. He could come back after he sits one out. He made that run for Senate a couple of months ago. It didn't pan out, but that wasn't really a big surprise considering the office. And we don't know if Hogan is going to run, but if he did, this poll shows Moore would get 52% and Hogan would get 38, 10% undecided. And it mentions those numbers are similar to the Senate election results from a couple of months ago. That sounds about right given Moore is the incumbent in a blue state. Hogan was very popular when he was governor. He came up in 2014 in kind of a surprise win. Then in 2018 in that blue wave, he won by double digits. So whether you love or you hate Hogan, you got to give him credit on his electoral success. Now, could that translate into anything else? Well, we just saw not really for the Senate, but could he come back to the office that he excelled in? Well, based on this poll, it looks like no. I think Moore's popularity would have to come down considerably before Hogan would have a chance. If not that, it would take an open seat where maybe Hogan can stage a political comeback. So I don't know if we've heard the last of Larry Hogan. I will say he made it a little bit more exciting in that Senate race, even though he still lost by double digits. But in this state, there's also a lot of discussion around taxes. And most people usually tend to oppose tax increases. And if you go down here, it says only 17% support an increase in the state income tax to deal with the deficit. 76% oppose this 60% strongly. So if not the income tax, how about sales tax? Well, only 23% support that increase. 73% oppose. And outside of those, maybe property taxes, maybe that's going to be the one to raise. Well, they're only 18% support it. 77% oppose, 65% strongly. So maybe if Moore runs into problems here on taxes or policy, his popularity could come down. But it is going to be tough for him to try to navigate this budget when there's a clear opposition to any tax increases. Now down here we've got the crosstabs on Wes Moore's approval rating. And I don't see anything too juicy here. Again, he even has a 33% approval rating from Republicans. And Moore is also someone who's been floated around as a potential future presidential candidate. So that's something to keep an eye on as we get a little bit closer to 2028. So after that, we've got a few crosstabs here on that governor's matchup. So here Hogan would need a good chunk of crossover vote from Dems. He's getting 18%. That's not enough. And he's even only getting 71% of Republicans. He's got to do better than that. In independents, Hogan is actually winning, but it's only by 4%. He'd have to really up that a lot. Then you've got the racial breakdown here, and Wes Moore is actually winning white voters 45 to 44. And men and women are not too far apart here. So I think this would be an amusing battle if it actually happened. But do I think Hogan is actually going to try to run for this? Probably not. But then again, I thought Hogan would not go for the Senate, and he decided to get in at the last minute. So I think it all comes down to which way the political winds are blowing at the time. And you also cannot forget about Trump's popularity in the White House. He's not even in office yet, but if he somehow turns out to be relatively popular, that could help Republicans down ballot. But of course, if Trump is not at all popular, that's going to make higher profile Republicans sit out elections. So anyway, there's some more data down below about the taxes. And after that, you could take a look at some of the crosstabs if you'd like. So a good couple of polls here from some neighboring states in the East Coast. Let me know in the comments, what do you think is going on in either of these two states? Are Sears and Spanberger basically tied? And what do you think about Wes Moore? Will he actually be challenged by Larry Hogan? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.